period from the middle of the 17th century until approximately 1800s was marked by substantial Maasai power and expansion. Though not great in numbers, this primarily pastoral people swept down through the Rift Valley and dominated many of the grazing lands formerly held by the Kalenjin. Not only the Kalenjin were affected by this movement, almost every major population group was touched by Maasai stock raiding and the practice of Maasai warriors hiring themselves out to other peoples as mercenaries, for example, in Wanga. The Maasai, moving periodically with their herds, thus dominated large areas of territory, stretching from the Uasin Gishu Plateau in northwestern Kenya to the Laikipia Plateau and from the central Rift Valley all the way to central Tanzania. The Maasai were not a single united entity. Several Maasai groups emerged during the course of this expansion, differing somewhat in way of life and the areas in which they lived. An important distinction among groups was that which separated the pastoralists, the IlMaasai, and those who practiced agriculture as well as herding, the Iloikop. The IlMaasai lived only off their herds and disdained vegetable foods or the meat of wild game. Iloikop groups grew crops, and some, such as the Airsha of Tanzania and Njemps of Kenya, developed intensive agriculture. Like the Kalenjin, the Maasai developed no centralized political system. Unity was maintained and leadership exercised through a system of age sets. Administration and decision-making lay in the hands of the elders, while the Merrin or warrior age grades provided the fighting men. By the end of the 18th century, a central religious and ritual figure, the olaiboni, had emerged among the pastoral IlMaasai. As the 19th century wore on, secular power was added to the religious power of the olaiboni. By the second half of the 19th century, Maasai power had begun to decline. Among the prime reasons for this was a series of civil wars fought between Maasai groups in the course of the century, often over grazing land and water. Several conflicts pitted IlMaasai groups against Iloikop, as in the conflict between the Purko and the Laikipiak in the 1870s. Some of these conflicts were devastating enough to significantly alter settlement patterns and population. And in the second half of the century, moreover, a series of natural disasters afflicted the Maasai, including rinderpest epidemics, which wiped out herds, and a smallpox pestilence, which took the lives of many people. By the 1890s, the power that Maasai groups had been able to wield a century or more earlier was largely a thing of the past.